There is a question that almost no one asks until it is almost too late. Not on their deathbed, by then the answer has already cost them everything. The question is simple. How have I been spending my time? Not in the abstract, not philosophically, but in the specific daily, hourly reality of how their one life has been used. Most people who ask this question honestly find the same answer. They had far more time than they thought, and they spent it on almost nothing. We are not given a short life. We make it short. That is the central argument of one of the most important texts ever written, a letter composed in Rome around 49 AD by a man who understood exactly how human beings destroy the only thing that truly belongs to them. Lucius Annaeus Seneca was a Stoic philosopher, statesman, and playwright who lived under some of the most tyrannical emperors in Roman history. He experienced exile, the constant threat of execution, and the corruption of absolute power at close range. He also wrote more clearly about time than perhaps anyone before or since. His short work on the shortness of life is not a comforting text. It is a confrontational one. It is Seneca looking directly at you and saying, "You are wasting the only thing you have." And the tragedy is that you know it, and you are doing it anyway. Today, we spend time, the only real currency, with Seneca's deepest argument about why human beings so consistently fail to possess the one thing that was always theirs, and what it would take to finally change. Seneca opens with a paradox. He says, life is long, not short long, long enough, he writes, for the highest achievements of the human mind, if only it were well applied. The problem is not the length of time you are given. The problem is that most people scatter it, let it drain away, and then, at the end, discover they did not have enough. It is not that we have a short time to live, he wrote, but that we waste much of it. Life is long enough, and it has been given in sufficiently generous measure to allow the accomplishment of the very greatest things, if the whole of it is well invested. That sentence should stop you cold. Life is long enough. You have been given enough. The question is only what you did with it. Seneca identified 3 categories of time: the past, which you can recover through memory and reflection; the future, which is uncertain and belongs to chance; and the present, which is the only time that is actually yours, the only time that cannot be taken from you, stolen by others, or lost to fortune. And yet this is precisely what most people do not inhabit. They live in the past through regret or nostalgia. They live in the future through anxiety or fantasy. The present moment, the only real estate that actually exists, they pass through without stopping. Seneca wrote, "Omnia aliena sunt, tempus tantum nostrum est." Everything is alien to us. Time alone is ours, not your reputation, not your possessions, not even your health, which fortune can take in an afternoon. Time, only time, and even that you surrender daily. The most devastating chapter of On the Shortness of Life is the one Seneca devoted to what he called the preoccupied. These are not idle people. They are not lazy. They are busy, relentlessly, exhaustingly busy. And that is precisely what destroys them. The preoccupied person is perpetually in motion, chasing status, managing obligations, attending to other people's urgent demands. They are available to everyone except themselves. They answer every call except the one that would require them to sit in silence and ask what any of it is actually for. Seneca described these people with a precision that sounds entirely modern. They are so busy that they have no time to live. Some men are cut off in the midst of their plans by death plans they have been forever postponing for the future, where they expected finally to begin their real life. Read that again. Plans they had been forever postponing for the future, where they expected finally to begin their real life. This is the defining tragedy of most human lives. Not suffering, not failure, but the perpetual deferral of actually living. Most of us know this pattern intimately. We tell ourselves, when this project is done, when the children are older, when I have saved enough, when things settle down, when I have more time. And so we spend our entire lives in preparation for a life we never actually begin. Seneca had a specific name for the people he most pitied. Not the poor, not the suffering. He pitied those who let others control their time. He wrote that a person who gives away their money is considered foolish, but a person who gives away their time is considered generous, virtuous even. And this is the deepest confusion of all. Think of how freely you give your hours to requests that do not matter to you, to conversations that leave nothing behind, to entertainment that fills the time without filling you. You would never hand a stranger your wallet, but you hand strangers and habits and screens and the ambient noise of the world your irreplaceable hours without a second thought. No one will bring back the years. No one will restore you to yourself, Seneca wrote. Life will follow the path it began to take and will neither reverse nor check its course. It will cause no commotion to remind you of its swiftness, but glide on quietly. It will not lengthen itself for a king's command or a people's favor. As it started out on its first day, so it will run on, nowhere pausing, nowhere delaying. There is something in that passage that is both beautiful and brutal. Life does not pause to give you a chance to catch up. It does not wait while you finish the project. It does not slow down while you are preoccupied. It moves through you as silently and as steadily as it always has. And one day you will notice that it has nearly passed. But here is where Seneca pivots. This is not a text about despair. He does not end with the hourglass empty and nothing to be done. He says something far more radical. He says that some people do figure this out, and for them, life is not short at all. He calls them the leisured not people who do nothing, but people who have claimed their own time, who have decided what actually matters to them and organized their lives accordingly, who are not at the mercy of every demand that arrives because they have already decided how their hours will be spent. Seneca describes these people with something close to reverence. Of all people, only those are at leisure who make time for philosophy. Only those are really alive. That word, alive, not productive, not successful, not admired, alive, as if the alternative to philosophical leisure is a kind of waking death. And he might be right. Consider what it means to be truly present for your own life, not rushing through it, not managing it, not performing it for others, actually present for it. It is, for most people, an almost foreign experience. They have spent so long preparing to live that living itself has become unfamiliar. The Stoics had a practice for this. They called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Not as pessimism, but as a tool for presence, Seneca used it constantly. By regularly imagining the loss of the things you value most, your health, your relationships, your remaining years, you learn to actually see them while they are still there. This is not morbidity. It is the opposite. It is the practice that turns an ordinary afternoon into something irreplaceable, that makes the meal you are eating taste like something you were lucky to have, that makes the conversation you are in feel like a gift rather than an obligation. Seneca also wrote about what he considered the greatest theft, not the theft of possessions or reputation, but the theft of the past. He believed that most people fail to cultivate their own history. They do not reflect on what has happened to them. They do not draw meaning from what they have lived. And so the past is lost twice, once as it passes, and again as it fades unexamined. Collect and save the time which till lately was being cut away from you, or was stolen from you, or which slipped from your grasp. Convince yourself that things are as I say. Some hours are torn from us, some gently removed, and some glide beyond our reach. This is not a minor consolation. It is an instruction. Collect your time. Do not let it be torn or stolen or allowed to glide away unnoticed. That means something specific. It means protecting stretches of time from interruption. It means saying no to requests that are not yours to carry. It means choosing fewer things and attending to them completely, not doing less, living more deliberately. Seneca made a distinction that almost no one in the modern world makes between being busy and being occupied. The busy person reacts. They are driven by what is urgent, what is demanded, what arrives in their inbox or their day. Their time is not their own. The occupied person has chosen what to give their hours to. The difference between these two lives is the difference between exhaustion and meaning. He had a simple test for whether your life was your own. Could you name what you were living for, not what you were working on, not what you were responsible for, what you were living for? the deep answer, the one that would still be true if tomorrow you lost your title and your obligations and your audience. Most people cannot answer that question. Not because they are shallow, but because they have never been still long enough to find out. The answer requires the kind of silence that most lives are structured, deliberately or unconsciously, to avoid. Near the end of On the Shortness of Life, Seneca describes the only people he considers truly rich. Not the wealthy, not the powerful, the people who have secured time for themselves, who spend their hours on what is genuinely their own, who have, as he says, entered into possession of themselves. Dum defertur vita transcurret. While we delay, life rushes on. 4 Latin words. The most important sentence Seneca ever wrote. Not because it is beautiful, though it is, but because it describes with devastating precision the mechanism by which most human lives are wasted. Not tragedy, not suffering, not the great storms of life, just delay, the small daily decision to begin tomorrow, to live fully once the circumstances are right, to stop postponing the actual use of your time once the conditions are finally in your favor. The conditions will never be in your favor. They never are. That is the nature of conditions. So what does Seneca ask of us? Not heroism, not renunciation. He asks for something harder and simpler than either. He asks you to stop lending yourself to others and start belonging to yourself. To spend some portion of each day in a way that you could justify to no one because it is yours and it needs no justification. He asks you to reflect on your past, not to regret it, but to possess it. The examined life is not just a philosophical ideal. It is the only way to make the past real, to draw meaning from what has already happened to you, rather than letting it slip through unprocessed. And he asks you to be honest about where your time actually goes. Not where you intend it to go. Not where you think it goes. Where it actually goes. Seneca believed that the unexamined schedule is as dangerous as the unexamined life. Because your schedule is your life. It is the daily evidence of what you actually value as opposed to what you claim to value. 2,000 years have passed since Seneca wrote these words. The world he described is unrecognizable. The distractions have changed. The obligations have multiplied. The noise has grown into something he could not have imagined. But the human tendency he identified has not changed at all. We still delay. We still borrow from tomorrow. We still give ourselves to what is urgent rather than what is real. The good news is that the remedy has also not changed. It is available to anyone willing to apply it. It requires no money, no talent, no special circumstances. It requires only the decision to stop letting your life happen to you and to begin happening to it. To treat your hours as what they actually are, the only real wealth you will ever possess. Reclaim the past through reflection. Inhabit the present through attention. Protect the future through deliberate choice. Do not give your hours to what does not matter to you. Do not postpone the life you intend to live. Do not let urgency crowd out importance. And above all, do not mistake being busy for being alive. Seneca ended his letter with a challenge so direct it has lost none of its force across 2 millennia. He said, "Retire into yourself as much as you can. Cultivate those who will improve you. Hold at arm's length those who will diminish you. Spend time on the things that will make you better, not the things that will simply pass the time. And remember at every moment that this is it. There is no rehearsal. This is your life. If this reached you at the right moment, subscribe. Each week, we explore the ancient wisdom traditions, philosophy, stoicism, and the timeless teachings that help us understand how to live. Stay with us.